getting to $100,000 takes years. Real discipline. Saying no to things repeatedly while everyone around you is spending freely. And then you finally get there and something changes. Not in the account. In your head. And that shift is exactly where most people make the mistakes that quietly pull them back down. These are not dramatic mistakes. They are the ones that feel completely reasonable at $100,000 and only show their damage 2 or 3 years later. The first mistake is treating $100,000 like a finish line. The moment your brain registers that the goal is achieved, it wants a reward. That reward almost always involves spending. And the math on the other side of that decision is brutal. $100,000 left alone at the historical 10% market return becomes $674,000 in 20 years. Pull $20,000 out to celebrate, and that number drops to $539,000. That one celebration cost you $135,000 in future wealth. A Federal Reserve study found that the single strongest predictor of long-term wealth building is what people do in the 12 months immediately after hitting a major savings milestone. The people who maintain their behavior after $100,000 pulled dramatically further ahead than the people who eased off even slightly. The milestone was not the turning point. The response to it was. The second mistake is lifestyle inflation that creeps in so slowly you never see it. You did not decide to spend more. You just upgraded the apartment by $350 a month. Got a newer car with a higher payment, joined a better gym. Each one felt proportionate to where you were. Together, they added $800 a month in new fixed expenses. Here is what $800 a month actually costs you. Invested at 10% annually for 20 years, that is $611,000. The apartment, the car, the gym did not cost you $800 a month. They cost you $611,000. And research on hedonic adaptation shows you will be completely used to all of those upgrades within 6 months. The comfort is temporary. The compounding loss is permanent. The third mistake is fee blindness. When you had $10,000, a 1% annual management fee cost you $100 a year. You barely noticed. At $100,000, that same fee cost you $1,000. At $300,000, it costs you $3,000. The percentage never changes on your statement. It just silently scales with your wealth. Vanguard's research showed the difference between a 1% expense ratio and a 0.03% index fund over 30 years on $100,000 is approximately $200,000 in lost compounding. That money did not disappear in a crash. It transferred to a fund company quietly every single quarter. And the S&P SPIVA report found that over 20 years, 94% of actively managed funds underperformed their benchmark index after fees. You are paying more for a product almost certain to perform worse. At $100,000, that decision finally has dollar consequences large enough to matter. The fourth mistake is stopping the behavior that built the $100,000. The discipline that got you here was built during a period when you felt behind. Once you cross 6 figures, the urgency softens. The contributions feel less critical because you already have something real. And gradually the savings rate drifts down without a formal decision to change anything. The automatic contribution stays the same dollar amount, but your income went up and the percentage quietly fell. Fidelity's retirement research found consistently that investors who maintain their savings rate after hitting a major milestone reach their retirement targets years earlier than investors whose rate declined even slightly. The compounding on $100,000 alone is real. But $100,000 plus continued aggressive contributions operates in a completely different category. Only one of those is in your control. The fifth mistake is taking on new debt because the balance sheet finally looks strong enough. When your net worth is $100,000, debt feels manageable for the first time. A car at 7%. A renovation on credit at 9%. A vacation on a card that will get paid off eventually. None of it feels reckless when you have 6 figures in assets, but debt at 7 or 9% reduces your effective return on everything you own. If your portfolio returns 10% and you are carrying 7% debt, Your real net return is somewhere between those two numbers. You built $100,000 by keeping the gap between income and spending wide. New debt narrows that gap without ever showing up as a spending decision because it arrives as a monthly payment that feels manageable. Until it is not. The sixth mistake is not having a next number. The goal is what maintained the discipline. When the goal disappears, the behavior loses its anchor. The people who consistently build past $100,000 already know what $250,000 means to them before they hit $100,000. They have thought about what $500,000 enables. The next number is not arbitrary. It is the mechanism that keeps the behavior running after the original motivation has been satisfied. Without it, the savings rate drifts. Contributions become optional some months. The compounding that should be accelerating slows down because the fuel that fed it is quietly being redirected toward a life that feels exactly the same as the less comfortable version did 6 months ago. The $100,000 took years. It is real and it matters. And then the next morning, it needs to be treated as exactly what it is, not a destination. The starting point for the part where compound interest finally works at a scale you can actually feel. The only thing separating the people who double it in the next 5 years from the people sitting at the same number 5 years from now is not income or market luck. It is what they decided to do the morning after they got there.